Hey everyone, today we're talking about something you probably weren't taught: how obsession begins, not with attention, but with absence. You see her. She's standing in a crowded cafe. Her makeup is flawless, her hair just slightly undone in that expensive curated way. Every man who walks by looks once, then twice. Some stare, some smile. You don't. And in that moment, without a word, you become different. And if you think you can control how others feel about you, then maybe that's exactly what you haven't let go of yet. So, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is over there. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on a fan for some soft background noise, and let's begin today's journey together. She knows she's beautiful. That's not arrogance, that's repetition. She's been told since she was 12, maybe earlier. Compliments have become currency so devalued they barely register anymore. You're stunning. Wow, those eyes. You should model. Each one sliding off like rain on glass. And most men, they line up like shoppers at a vending machine. Insert a compliment. Wait for a reward. But not you. You don't feed the surface. You go for the signal beneath the noise. You say something different. Something no one else bothers to notice. You see things people miss. You say after she mentions a random book no one reads anymore. You're the kind of person who finds depth in overlooked places. And that right there creates obsession. Why? Because it flips the value structure. Now she's not the one being admired for something inherited. She's being recognized for something earned. And that distinction, it's magnetic. Philosophers still debate what it means to be truly seen. But one thing is clear: it's rare, especially for women who've been chased for years by eyes, not minds. So when you sit across from her and refuse to orbit her beauty, she feels something unfamiliar, uneasy even, a quiet challenge. She wonders, wait, why isn't he impressed by the thing everyone else is? Does he not notice it? Or does he see something I don't? That confusion leads to curiosity. And curiosity, when it comes from someone who usually controls the frame, is obsession's quiet beginning. Now let's get real. You're not pretending she isn't beautiful. You're simply not rewarding the part of her that the world already worships. You're choosing something else: her thoughts, her timing, the strange way she fidgets when she's thinking hard. You're like the one guy at a Vegas buffet who skips the lobster and asks for the sauce recipe instead. And when you do eventually mention her appearance, when it slips out, after you've already made her laugh or challenged her ideas, it hits 10 times harder. By the way, you're also ridiculously beautiful. Just like that, calm, afterthought, almost careless. And she feels it in her spine. Because now it's not a transaction, it's not needy. It's not bait. It's validation from someone she actually respects. You're no longer the guy who notices her looks. You're the guy who noticed something else first. There's a funny truth in dating psychology: what you highlight becomes what you chase. If you lead with lust, you build a ladder to nowhere. If you lead with insight, you build a bridge. And she'll want to cross it. You're not the echo of every guy who came before. You're a new pattern. Remember that crocodile-scented sunscreen ad that nobody understood but everyone talked about? That's you. Strange, different, memorable. You become the exception she didn't expect. So next time you meet her, skip the easy compliment. Skip the "you're gorgeous" or the "wow, your eyes." Instead, say, "I like the way you pause before answering." Most people rush. You don't. That right there, that's emotional gold. That's obsession fuel, because you're not competing with beauty. You're elevating it. You're saying, "I see more than what's visible." And that's why you can't stop thinking about me. There's a shift that happens when a woman starts getting emotionally invested. It's subtle. Maybe she starts texting more, laughing harder, asking questions that aren't small talk anymore. And most men, right at that moment, do what they've been conditioned to do: they lean in. They text back faster. They cancel plans to be more available. They respond to every little sign of interest with a tidal wave of attention. But not you. Because you've learned something most men never figure out. Desire doesn't grow in closeness, it grows in distance. There's a term in psychology: emotional contrast amplification, that basically means this: we feel things more when we almost have them, but not quite. And that's where you live, in the almost. Just close enough to be real, just far enough to be desired. When she texts "I miss you," you smile at the screen but don't rush to reply. When she hints at a plan, you pause, let it breathe, and say, "Let's see." You're not playing games, you're just not playing defense. You create space, and in that space, her imagination does the work for you. See, women don't obsess over men who are always there. They obsess over men who create emotional tension. It's not about ignoring her. It's about staying still when she expects movement. Let me paint the picture. You're both sitting at a dimly lit bar. She leans in, touches your arm, says something soft. Most men would melt, nod, lean in further, signal availability. You stay still, take a sip of your drink, hold her gaze, then look away just for a moment. And that silence, that pause, it messes with her. Because it breaks the pattern, it says, I see you, but I'm not folding. Philosophers still debate whether desire is about presence or absence. But in dating, the answer is simple. It's both. And only the rare man knows how to balance them. Now, let's be clear, you're not ghosting. You're not emotionally punishing her. You're just not over delivering. You don't match her pace out of fear. You hold your own rhythm. And that rhythm becomes the beat she can't stop dancing to. Remember that one episode of your favorite show, the one that ended with a cliffhanger so sharp it physically hurt? You binged the next one. You had to know what happened. That's the energy you bring. Every time she reaches out and you don't jump, you create a question in her mind. And obsession lives in unanswered questions. A quirky truth here, most men, when she pulls in, feel like they've finally won. It's happening. She likes me, I need to show up more or she'll lose interest. But that's the paradox. The moment you make her comfort your mission, you lose her tension. And the attraction dies quietly. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you became too easy to decode. Unpredictability isn't manipulation, it's self-possession. You've got a life, a focus, a purpose bigger than romance. So when she texts and you wait an hour, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're genuinely busy, that delay carries weight. She starts checking her phone. Wondering, did she say something wrong? Is he pulling away? Why do I care this much? Congratulations, you're in her head, not with words, but with pace. Now, when you do lean in, when you send a voice message instead of a text, when you suggest a spontaneous plan, it lands harder because it feels rare, real, chosen. And she'll crave that energy again. Let's wrap this part with something Stoicism teaches: control what you can, let go of what you can't. In dating, you can't control how she feels, but you can control your rhythm. And when your rhythm is calm, deliberate, grounded, she won't just notice, she'll orbit it. So don't panic when she starts to care more. Don't match her. Hold steady, pull slightly away, and watch what happens when she starts chasing the man who won't chase her. It starts with a glance, not from her, but from someone else. Maybe it's the barista who smiles too long, or the girl at the gym who finds a reason to ask for your name. You don't brag about it. You don't even mention it. You just let her notice. And she will. Because women have radar for social dynamics that most men can't comprehend. They read body language like FBI profilers. They notice who's looking, who's laughing, who lingers. And when they see other women noticing you, they don't get mad. They get activated. Now, let's be honest. The idea of making a woman jealous makes some guys uncomfortable. It sounds manipulative, immature, but here's the thing. You're not trying to make her jealous. You're just not hiding your desirability. There's a difference. Philosophers still debate whether jealousy is a flaw or a survival instinct. But biologically, it's baked in. It's how we evolved to protect what we value. And when a woman starts to feel that her position in your world could be taken, her desire intensifies. So how do you do it, right? You live fully. You remain socially magnetic. You laugh with women at a party without trying to win. You maintain female friendships that are real, not planted. You stay in motion. Because the most powerful kind of jealousy isn't loud. It's quiet, unspoken. It simmers. She sees that you're not orbiting her. You're not desperately waiting. You're existing confidently, and other women enjoy that orbit. That realization hits her harder than any compliment ever could. Now, here's what most guys do wrong. They overcorrect. They talk about their ex. They post pics with girls to prove a point. They flirt aggressively in front of her to manufacture competition. It's obvious, and it reeks of insecurity. But when jealousy is subtle, unforced, and organic, it feels real. It doesn't make her question your character, it makes her question her control. And that's where the game flips. Let me give you a quirky example. You're at dinner. She notices your phone light up. She sees a woman's name. You don't flinch. You don't hide it. You smile, let it sit, and say something playful like old friend. She has terrible timing. And then you move on. That calm confidence that I'm not explaining, but I'm also not hiding energy. That's the fuel for her mind to spiral in the best way possible. She won't say anything, but later she'll replay it. Who was that? Do I have competition? Why did that bother me so much? Jealousy, when handled with precision, becomes a mirror. It forces her to confront how much she cares. Because obsession doesn't grow in safety, it grows in tension. And here's a funny contradiction most men miss. The more women who like you, the more she starts seeing you through their eyes. It's like restaurant psychology. You see a place with no line, no crowd, no buzz, and you wonder if it's even good. But when there's a wait list, a crowd, a vibe, you assume it must be worth it. You become that restaurant. Now don't force it, don't become performative. You're not here to make her insecure. You're here to stay unbothered. You move through the world like a man who doesn't chase approval because it naturally comes to you. And that's what makes her crazy. Not because you're playing games, but because you're not playing at all. So the next time she gives you a strange look when another woman laughs a little too long at your joke, just smile. Let her feel the slight edge of jealousy. Because in that moment, she's not wondering if you like her. She's wondering how to make sure no one else gets the chance to. Let's set the scene. You're sitting across from her, candlelight, soft music. There's a moment of silence, not awkward, just empty space. She leans in, searching your face for a signal, a clue, a promise. And instead of filling the gap, you hold your posture, sip your drink, and offer a small smile that says everything without saying anything. That's power, because deep down she senses it. You could walk away and it wouldn't break you. See, most men, once they feel a little warmth from a woman, start moving like they're protecting a flame in the wind. They become careful, overly nice, always available. They think affection is a contract and now they've got to perform to keep it. But you don't beg for connection. You don't fear loss. You don't adjust your standards to match her moods. You'd rather walk alone with dignity than stay close and shrink. That's what makes you dangerous. And women don't obsess over men who beg. They obsess over men who can walk away and still be whole. Now, this doesn't mean you're cold. It doesn't mean you're detached or heartless. It means you've done the work. You've built a self-respect so solid that no amount of validation from her can shake it or replace it. Philosophers still argue over the balance between freedom and love, but in your world, freedom comes first. Because love without freedom isn't love, it's control. There's a term in psychology, secure detachment, which is the ability to connect deeply while still knowing you don't need the connection to survive. That's what you radiate. She feels it in the way you respond slowly, in the way you don't try to fix every silence, in the way you pause before agreeing to plans. Not because you're playing, but because you're not abandoning your priorities for hers. And that energy, it's rare. Most men don't act like this. They get scared the moment something good starts to form. They text more, lean in, more apologize before anything goes wrong. They treat affection like a fire sale. You treat it like an invitation, not a requirement. Let me give you a real world example. She says something like, I don't know if I'm ready for anything serious. The average guy, he backpedals, reassures her, tries to prove he's safe. You nod, maybe raise an eyebrow. Then say, fair enough, I'm not here to convince anyone. And you keep it moving. That line, that tone. It shakes her because she's used to men trying to secure her. You, on the other hand, are already secured. She's used to being the one who might walk away. Now you're the one who could disappear without bitterness, without drama, without begging. And that mystery, that confidence, it flips the emotional script in her mind. She starts to invest more, think more, chase more. Not because you manipulated her, but because you modeled something better. Self-trust. Now here's the quirky twist. The moment you become the kind of man who doesn't need her, she starts needing you. Not out of lack, but out of awe. Because you've shown her a version of masculinity that doesn't bend for comfort. It offers presence, not performance. It invites, but never clings. Remember the guy from college who panicked when a girl took longer than 5 minutes to text back? The guy who triple texted, then deleted, then called to make sure everything's okay. Yeah, don't be that guy. Be the one who doesn't text back immediately because you're in the middle of a project that actually matters. Be the one who cancels a date because your peace isn't worth sacrificing for small talk. Be the man who walks away when his standards aren't met because staying would cost more than leaving. That's what builds obsession, not neediness, not perfection, but a calm, deliberate ability to say, this is who I am, and I don't change for closeness. So, next time you're faced with that crossroads, should I chase? Should I reassure? Should I fold? Ask yourself, would I still be okay if I lost this? And if the answer is yes, then you're already the man she can't stop thinking about. It's Tuesday. You usually send her a good morning text, you always do, but today you don't. Not because you're mad, not because you're busy, but because you don't want to become a routine. And now she's thinking about you. This is the secret nobody teaches: predictable men get forgotten. Unpredictable men stay in her mind. Not because they're unstable, but because they're alive. And life, real life, is never robotic. You're not here to become a machine of validation. You're here to become a man of signal. See the moment she can predict everything you'll do, she emotionally checks out. She files you under safe, known, non threatening. And then she stops feeling because attraction thrives in uncertainty. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, the idea that unpredictable rewards create stronger emotional bonds. It's why slot machines are addictive. It's why cliffhangers keep you watching. And it's why a woman becomes obsessed when she can't quite figure you out. You smile one day, tease the next, go quiet for a night, then show up with insight the day after. Not to play games, but to be human, to have depth, to be textured. There's a fine line between consistency and routine. Consistency is emotional maturity. Routine is emotional boredom. Philosophers still debate whether love is sustained by comfort or tension. But attraction? It's tension all day. Comfort grows love, but tension sparks obsession. Let's say you're usually thoughtful, calm, reflective. One day you show up a little cocky. You throw out a line that makes her laugh in surprise. You challenge something she said last week. She leans back, caught off guard. And that moment, that flicker of unpredictability, it rewires her brain because suddenly you're not just a character in her story, you're a question mark, and she wants the answer. Here's a quirky metaphor. You ever watch a nature documentary where the animal does something unexpected, like a dolphin using tools, or a bird that mimics a chainsaw? You rewind. You tell people you can't forget it. That's what happens when you break your own rhythm. Now, don't confuse this with being flaky or chaotic. You're not switching personalities, you're adding layers. You're not texting her just because it's 9 a.m. You're texting her because you have something worth saying. You're not complimenting her on schedule. You're letting silence do the work, then dropping a line that makes her melt when she least expects it. Think of yourself like a great movie. You've got a vibe, a tone, a rhythm. But just when the audience thinks they know what's coming, you throw in a plot twist, a line, a pause, a new look. And now she's rewatching it in her mind. Let me give you a real world example. She texts something flirty. Normally you'd match the tone, but today you go dry. You say, interesting. Then, nothing. An hour later, you send her a meme so random it makes her snort laugh in public. And now she's emotionally spinning. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're not on autopilot. You're real, alive, surprising. She starts leaning in, not just for attention, but to see what you'll do next. Because when you're unpredictable yet stable, something primal activates in her. She feels safe, but not bored, engaged, but not in control, curious, and curiosity is the beginning of obsession. So don't fall into patterns. Don't become her emotional calendar. Be her wild card. Be the man who texts her something meaningful on a random Wednesday at 3 a.m. Be the man who disappears for 2 days because he's deep in a project, then shows up with a story so good she forgets to be mad. You're not a routine. You're a rhythm. And the best rhythms keep people dancing. You're at a rooftop bar. The sky's pink, the music low. You're not even with her tonight, but she sees you. Across the room, surrounded. Two women laugh at something you said. One touches your arm. You're not being obvious. You're just being you, relaxed, lit from within. And that moment, it hits her, not with jealousy, but with urgency. Because now she's not just attracted, she's activated. You've triggered something ancient, something that lives in the back of her mind just below the surface. A competitive drive not just to be chosen, but to prove she's the one worth choosing. And here's the wild part. She doesn't even have to like you that much yet, but if she sees other women drawn to you, she'll start wondering why. She'll start reevaluating you, and that's how obsession begins. It's not manipulation, it's instinct. Psychologists call it social proof, the idea that something becomes more desirable when others want it. And in dating, it's one of the most powerful emotional levers there is. Now, most guys ruin this completely. They either get performative, trying to make her jealous by flirting too loud, posting stories with random girls, or name-dropping exes, or they go full monk, cutting off all female attention the second she shows interest, like they're proving loyalty. Both are wrong. The power lies in balance. You let her see that women find you attractive, but you never throw it in her face. You're just effortlessly surrounded by warmth, effortlessly magnetic, effortlessly unavailable without being cold. You're not chasing, you're being chased, and she knows it. Let me give you a real-world scene. You're out with mutual friends. A woman compliments your shirt. You laugh, say thank you, and return your focus to the group. She watches you handle attention without needing it. She watches you enjoy the moment without trying to perform. She watches and her heart rate shifts. Why? Because you didn't use that moment to inflate your ego. You used it to communicate something far more powerful. I don't need her attention. And I don't need yours either. Philosophers still debate whether competition corrupts or clarifies love, but attraction. It craves competition, especially when it's subtle. Here's a quirky observation. You know how when you're watching a cooking show and suddenly three judges lean in on one plate, even if it's not the best looking dish, you start assuming that must be the one to watch. Your brain gets tricked by interest. Same thing here. When she sees other women investing in you, laughing with you, remembering your stories, subtly trying to stay near you, her brain does the math. This guy is valuable. I need to win. And here's the best part, it works even if she hasn't fully made up her mind about you yet. Because now it's not just about liking you, it's about standing out, proving something, winning something. An obsession lives in the space between desire and doubt. Now, caution. You're not playing women against each other. That's high school energy. You're just showing her without a word that you're not orbiting her sun. You are the sun, and others are already basking in it. When she feels that, she shifts. She texts first. She dresses better. She laughs louder at your jokes. She starts investing energy not because you asked for it, but because her emotional competitive switch has flipped. And that's when the game changes. So next time you think, should I tone it down so she doesn't get the wrong idea? Don't. Be social, be vibrant, be desired. Let her feel the presence of other women just enough to remind her she's not the only one who sees your value, but she might be the only one who gets to keep it. It starts with a high, a spark, a late night conversation where your attention is locked in deep, specific electric. You ask questions no one else has asked. You notice the way she pauses before telling a story, how she downplays her dreams, but her eyes light up anyway. You listen. And then you vanish. Not out of anger, not out of drama, but like the tide, slow, inevitable silent. You pull back just enough to leave her standing alone with the echo of your energy. And in that echo, obsession begins. Because here's the truth, attention that never stops loses its weight. It becomes static. Background noise, predictable, but attention that comes in waves, that surges and retreats, carries emotional depth. Psychologists call it contrast theory. Our brains notice things more intensely when they are presented with opposites. Warmth feels warmer after cold. Laughter hits harder after silence. And so your attention, when paired with space, becomes unforgettable. Here's what most men do wrong. They flood her with texts, with likes, with availability, with good morning beautiful 7 days a week. And it feels sweet until it starts to feel expected. But you create rhythm. You give her a night where she feels like the only woman in the world. Then you give her space to miss it. She checks her phone, refreshes your thread, replays your last voice note. And the silence. It starts doing your work for you. Now let me be clear, this is not punishment. You're not withholding to control. You're simply choosing when to connect so that it lands. Let's drop into a real-world example. It's Friday night. You've had a long week. She sends a flirty message expecting a flirty reply. But you're not in that space. You don't fake it. You reply hours later with something grounded like, was off the grid today, needed some quiet. Talk soon. Short, clean, centered. She feels it, not as distance, but as presence somewhere else. And the absence of your usual energy, it starts to sting in a good way. Because now your attention isn't air, it's fire. And fire burns brighter when you control the oxygen. Here's a quirky metaphor. Think of your presence like perfume in a room. If it's too constant, people go nose blind. But if it fades and returns, suddenly everyone's leaning in. That's you. You are not a faucet of validation. You are the ocean, beautiful, mysterious, and never fully reachable. And women, they don't chase faucets, they chase tides. Philosophers still wrestle with the ethics of emotional withholding. But this isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's being intentional about your energy. Because when you give attention freely, fully, and then retreat into your own world, she doesn't just want more of you, she starts wondering if she earned it. And that shift, that's the beginning of chase. So don't text her every morning. Don't like every post. Don't overstay your emotional welcome. Give her a moment she can feel. Then leave a gap big enough for her to step into. That's where the desire grows, not in the presence, but in the anticipation of return. Now, warning, if you pull back without giving, first, it won't work. Your silence will feel empty. But if you've given depth, attention, connection, then your absence becomes a void she wants to fill. You become the pattern she craves but can't predict. You become the message she rereads at night. You become the high she can't recreate. So next time you feel the urge to text goodnight, just to stay on her radar, don't. Let her wonder, let her want, let your silence build value. Because when she's sitting there staring at her phone, replaying your last sentence in her head, you've already won. There's a storm that begins not with thunder, but with stillness. A sudden quiet in the air that tells you something has shifted. That's what your silence becomes to her. Not emptiness, not punishment, but presence, withheld. And it drives her wild. Most men are terrified of silence. They fill it with too many words, too many texts, too many reassurances. The moment things feel unclear, they rush to explain, to smooth things over, to speak where presence would have spoken louder. But you've learned to hold the pause, not because you're unsure, but because you're solid. Silence isn't what you use when you don't know what to say. It's what you use when you don't need to say anything at all. That's the shift. There's a term in psychology, response latency, which refers to how long you wait before replying in a conversation. Studies show that longer pauses, when done with confidence, create authority. They signal control, depth, and tension. And when used with a woman, they signal something even more powerful: emotional independence. Let's say she goes cold. Maybe she pulls away, says something snarky, challenges you. Most men panic. They fire back a paragraph. They try to fix it. They demand clarity. You don't. You breathe. You step back. You observe. And that silence, that space, you leave untouched. It hits like thunder because she expected reaction. She expected heat. She expected you to chase. But instead, she gets air. And in that air, her thoughts start racing. Did I go too far? Why isn't he replying? Did I lose him? Congratulations. You've entered her nervous system. And it's not about being cruel. It's about showing her without a word that your center cannot be shaken on command. Here's a real world example. You're mid conversation. She throws out a test. Maybe it's passive aggressive. Maybe it's playful but laced with challenge. Most guys take the bait. You don't. You smile. Say nothing. Take a sip of your drink. Let the silence hang like art in a museum, intentional, sharp, commanding. She shifts in her seat because now the frame has changed. You're not in her emotional movie. She's in yours. Let's bring in a quirky metaphor. You ever walk into a boutique and ask for the price of something beautiful only for the salesperson to say it's not for sale? Suddenly you want it more. Your silence is the not for sale sign. It tells her, I'm not here for display. I'm here for connection. And I choose when I open. Philosophers still debate whether silence is absence or power. You already know the answer. It's both. Because silence, when earned, becomes a reward. She doesn't get it by default. She gets it after presence, after connection, after you've shown up and seen her and then stepped away. And when you return, that return is worth more than any words you could have said in the gap. This isn't about ghosting. This isn't about disappearing. This is about rhythm, tension, presence. Then pause. Because when you give, and then stop, she feels it. And she starts wondering how to get it back. That's when the chase begins. So the next time she gets quiet, don't chase. The next time she acts distant, don't press. Let her feel the echo of your energy. Because if you've done your part, if you've shown up with warmth, attention, and truth, then your silence isn't cold. It's earned. And she'll chase it, replay it, dream about it because it's rare, because it's powerful, because it reminds her he's not afraid to lose me. And now I'm scared to lose him. That's when the dynamic flips. Not through arguments, not through games, but through calm, deliberate silence. So don't fear the pause. Use it and watch her lean in. She thinks she knows what you'll say. She's seen it before, felt it before. Another guy who's going to follow the script, hit his cues, deliver his lines. And just as she's getting ready to tune out, you don't. You break the rhythm. Not by force, not with bravado, but with subtle redirection. A comment she didn't expect. A pause where most men would rush. A refusal to play along with her tested emotional patterns. That quiet disruption, it's electric. Because she lives in scripts. Most people do. Scripts about attraction, attention, behavior. Post a picture, get 100 likes, drop a teasing comment, get instant validation, play hard to get, watch him chase. It's all been rehearsed. But when you enter the frame steady, grounded, unwilling to play those roles, she gets confused. And confusion is the beginning of curiosity. Curiosity is the beginning of obsession. Philosophers still argue whether real change comes from trauma or surprise. You offer the second, a shock of difference, a ripple in her expectations. Let me give you a real-world example. She tells you she's not looking for anything serious right now. Most men nod, backpedal, apologize for having feelings. You say, cool, I'm not here to convince anyone. And then you go quiet. Boom, pattern shattered. Or she flirts playfully, says something that's clearly meant to test your reaction. Most guys take the bait, laugh too hard, lean in too fast. You smile, hold eye contact, and respond with, that was cute. Are we doing the push-pull thing now? She freezes. You've seen through it, named it, neutralized it. And now she has to shift. Now she has to rethink her approach. Because suddenly, she's not leading this dance. You are. Here's a quirky metaphor. You ever walk through a haunted house, heart racing, expecting something to jump out, and instead someone hands you a flower? That's the moment you create. She expects one thing, you deliver the opposite. And now she's wide awake. But here's the key gentle disruption. You're not mocking her, you're not alphaing her. You're just not cooperating with her conditioning. You are not there to impress, you are there to invite, to create a new pattern, one where calm meets confidence, where silence meets sharpness, where play meets purpose. And the more you resist the script, the more she has to rewrite her assumptions. That effort, that recalibration, it keeps her up at night. She replays your words, not because they were loud, but because they broke the loop. So next time she tries to box you in, with an emotional test, with an expected compliment, with the same tired rhythm. Pause. Step aside, break it gently. Say something that's not in the script. Be someone she doesn't see coming. Because when you refuse to follow the lines she's handed out to 100 other men, you force her to look up, to pay attention, to feel something new, to ask, who is this guy? And once that question lands, you've already taken up residence in her mind. She raises her voice, tests you with silence, plays hot then cold. Most men crack here. They respond too fast, explain too much, or spiral emotionally, trying to make her feel better. But not you, because you've learned the rarest skill a man can master in today's dating world: emotional untouchability. Now, let's be clear, this isn't about being cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. That's not strength. That's fear dressed up in detachment. What you carry is something quieter, heavier, more magnetic. You feel everything, but you react to nothing. She flirts, you appreciate it. She withdraws, you stay centered. She tries to provoke you. You smile, blink once, and move on. And she can feel it. The storm she thought would shake you doesn't even move your jacket. Philosophers have said it for centuries: the man who masters himself becomes ungovernable, unshakable, unforgettable. And here's why it works in the realm of attraction, especially with women who are used to men chasing emotional crumbs. When you stay still while everyone else scrambles, you create polarity. You become the grounded oak in a world of bending reeds. You become the quiet force that commands presence. You become different. Let me drop you into a real world moment. She's annoyed, maybe over something small. A slow reply, a look you gave someone else. She's probing now, trying to ignite a reaction. Most men would fall into explanation, try to soothe, apologize for being misunderstood. You, you give her stillness, a small smirk, a slow breath. Then I'm not here to argue. Let me know when you're done guessing. Not rude, not cruel, just unmoved. And now she's reeling. Because her emotional map doesn't work on you, she can't locate your buttons, can't provoke the chaos she's used to creating. That's not frustrating, that's addictive. There's a concept in behavioral psychology called reactance. When someone resists being influenced, others subconsciously try harder to get through to them. Your emotional untouchability creates that resistance. And in her mind, it feels like, I want to get through to him. I want him to break pattern. I want him to chase just a little. But you don't, because you've trained yourself to observe before reacting, to pause before responding, to feel without folding. Here's a quirky image. You're the guy at the poker table with a full house and a blank face. Everyone else is sweating. You're sipping water. And women, they don't forget that guy, because they're not used to men who hold frame when emotions spike. They're used to emotional validation on demand. And when you don't give it, they lean in. They recalibrate. They chase. Staying emotionally untouchable doesn't mean you don't feel. It means your feelings don't command your behavior. It means you've divorced your self-worth from her approval. If she praises you, great. If she ignores you, same. Your validation comes from within. So how do you cultivate this? Start with breath, seriously. When tension rises, breathe before speaking. Observe the scene like it's a movie you've already seen 100 times. Smile, not because you're mocking her, but because you're aware. She can test, provoke, flirt, withdraw, but none of it changes who you are. And that certainty, that stillness, it's rare. It's stoic, it's masculine, it's dangerous in the best way. So next time emotions flare, next time things feel chaotic, don't grab the wheel. Be the calm in the storm, because in her world, everyone else panics. You stay unmoved. And that's exactly why she'll never forget you. So now you've seen it, the real map, the one no one hands you when you're growing up. 10 shifts, each one subtle, quiet, unspoken, but together, they make you unforgettable. Not because you say the right thing, but because you stop chasing the wrong things. Not because you manipulate women, but because you mastered yourself. Let that settle in for a second. The man who praises her mind, not her beauty. The man who pulls away just when she leans in. The man whose silence weighs more than someone else's attention. That man is rare. And in a world of noise and neediness, women don't want more attention. They want depth. They want polarity. They want to feel something they can't control. You become that when you hold the frame, when you stop performing, when you stop over-explaining, when you live as if your presence is the reward, not the apology. So slow down, take your time. Don't rush to prove your worth to anyone. Because real obsession doesn't come from trying harder, it comes from showing up different. From being the man who could have her, but doesn't need her. From being the mystery that can't be solved. From being the calm that makes her question everything. And if you're feeling this, if something in you is waking up right now, then you already know the next move. Breathe, speak less, stand taller, and never chase energy that doesn't recognize your value. Obsession doesn't start with control, it starts with contrast, with rhythm, with stillness, with you. End of script. Have a beautiful day.